Let me pause that before YouTube want to try and catch me out for any type of copyright. Hey, oh, thank you. Yeah, you know I love my purple. That before YouTube want to try. Oh, there we go. I think we're live on YouTube. Let me just double check. Right. So if you want to if you go over to soul-reconnection now, you should actually see the link, and you can share that out.
I can't see the link, so I'm the worst at this stuff.
I'm about to share it onto my page right now. Hold on.
Oh, Sophie, are you trying to bring it up as well?
Yeah, so I'm on the page on YouTube.
But you want to bring up the link, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so we are going, wait, it should be on my page now. Yeah, you're going to come over to YouTube. Yeah, come join us over on YouTube.
Video.
Right,
oh yeah,
cool.
Found it. Cool.
Right, you got it?
Yeah, so I just share this link, right?
Yeah, you can. Oh, yeah, found it. Cool. And we're about to start shortly.
Yeah, so I just...
Yeah, I'm going to share this link as well quickly.
Yeah. We're going to start in about a minute's time. So just make sure everything on the back end is here. Hi, Natalie. We're going to be live on YouTube. I'm going to see if you can drop that link into my Facebook, the Facebook link to my Facebook. People can actually go through that as well.
Share this link as well.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Minutes time. Hi, Essence House. We're actually all live over on YouTube. So if you type in soul-reconnection, or if you go to my page, you'll see the link on my page, and you can join in and see everyone that's on live, as it's only me on this side. But we have everyone over live on YouTube right now. And let me just check in to see. Hold on, let me just undo that. Am I feeding back? Is it me? Or is someone got it playing in the background?
Yeah, it was playing on mine. I've turned it off now.
Okay, that's cool. No worries. Cool. Okay. I think we are good to go once I get this up. For some reason, the phone always wants to be slow when you get on live.
Mm-hmm. That's my whole life.
Right. And it's Mercury retrograde as well, so it has no chill.
Yeah.
No chill whatsoever. Okay, I'm probably going to have to do it from my phone. Oh, no, I can actually see it coming up here. Cool. Hi, Purple. Oh, okay, yeah, definitely contact me with that. Just hit me up on my Facebook, and then we can arrange that. But yeah, I just want to say thank you to my two guests today. So we have Sophie Sterling and we have Martin Hall, and we have an amazing conversation for you today. One of which I feel is not given a lot of attention. And if you guys know my background of my story, you know why this is definitely an important conversation for us to have with regards to the mental health system and just different perspectives and different ways to be able to deal with mental health and especially when with family members in crisis. And so I specifically chosen this family for us to be able to speak with today, as they have an experience collectively with regards to just dealing with mental health in itself. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. So we'll go to Sophie. If you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what is it that you do? And then you can kind of introduce your brother as well.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm Sophie, and my background is actually in mental health and psychology, which makes this Very interesting conversation to have. And I currently am a coach to mums in business, primarily mums from Black and minority ethnic backgrounds, using my psychology within that. And I've brought my brother along on this tonight because my story and his story are combined. It's about his experience. He's my younger brother. I would say my big little brother because he's a lot bigger than me, obviously. But yeah, he's 3 years younger. And yeah, we've been through it. We've been through it. And I feel like what you're going to hear, you know, it was one of the biggest challenges we've ever faced as a family, but definitely one of the biggest blessings as well. And I hope that by the end of this, you know, you guys watching will feel, you know, that you can get through anything and come out the other side, and like it can be a blessing for you as well. So yeah, this is Mart.
What's up?
Yes, Mart. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name's Martin, as you just said. I'm 28 years old. I'm 29 in December. In terms of obviously what we're talking about now, went through depression back in, what was it, 2015, so 2014?
Yeah, 14.
Yeah. And I feel like it was quite a strong bout of depression. Like I was messed up for a while, like a good year. This is the first time like I'm ever like talking about it publicly with anyone. So it's kind of like a big deal for me, but there's no time like the present. Why not, man? Soph said, come do it. So I'm like, you know what? It's probably going to help someone who's out there feeling the same way. So let's just do it, man. Let's get stuck in. Yeah,
and you know what? I congratulate you for just taking this bold step, because I know it's not easy for you to, and especially for people of color to be able to speak about these types of issues, because it's massive.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Everyone wants to put on this mask on their face to make it look like, you know, you're getting through life much smoother than you're actually getting through it. Like,
of course.
Reality is it's very rough, and we need to be able to allow those layers to be pulled back so we can just be real and just be honest and have honest conversations, because everyone struggles. But if we don't actually share our experiences and the reality of our experiences, then we'll just be feeling like a lot of the stuff that we go through is very individual, and it's actually very collective. It's just no one about it.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I just want to thank you just for even taking a step, and even taking a step onto my channel to be able to have this conversation. So as I said, this is going to be talking about more so a humanistic approach to dealing with mental health crisis. And Sophie told me a bit of her story or her family story prior to this interview, and I thought this is definitely something that we need to definitely have a conversation about. Yeah, definitely. So with regards to, let's kind of go back a bit. What was the conditions behind your mental? First of all, what was the diagnosis she was given, and what was kind of like the situation kind of leading up to the breakdown, so to speak?
Okay. In terms of my diagnosis, I think Sophie will probably be able to help with that. I can't even remember. Like, I was so out of it, I wasn't even really listening to too much back then, if you know what I'm saying. But the build up to it was probably a mixture of not knowing where I was going in life, doing nonsense still. I feel like it was a whole host of things, man. Not being prepared, not planning.
So do you feel
sorry, carry on.
Do you feel like it was anxiety was like the basis of what was kind of creating?
To be honest, like I don't know if it's like too like very specific for me, but for me it was kind of like from a young age I was always really good at stuff, like good at sport, good at music. And then it got to a point in my life where I started thinking like, hold on, like, I'm not really good at anything right now. Like, what am I going to do kind of thing? Do you know what I mean? And then I just was still just doing a lot of silly things on the roadside. And, you know how it is like growing up in a bad neighborhood, like you have things that you do, things that you get up to, you know? Mm-hmm. And I started feeling like, oh, is this literally going to be the life for me kind of thing? Like, it's either going to be, you know, crime and all this other stuff, or I have to go the hard route and try and actually plug at something to try and get to the other side, you know what I'm saying? And they're both hard routes, do you know what I mean? So the obstacles that like I felt like I was dealing with at the time kind of just put me in a place where I was just feeling a little bit frantic, do you know what I mean? But that's also talking about, to be fair, I kind of noticed that afterwards, because the whole reason I actually got into the whole depression thing is because I started feeling pain inside me, do you know what I mean? So like my whole thing was the pain. Like I wasn't even thinking about all that stuff I was just talking about. I wasn't even thinking about at the start. It was just, I woke up one day and I just started getting these mad aches and pains, like ones I've never ever felt in my whole life. But I didn't tell no one because I was thinking like, oh, like I'll probably just shrug this off because I usually get ill and then I'm fine straight after. Do you know what I mean? So I was just shrugging it off. And I shrugged that off for a good while, for a good 6-7 months. And then it just got to the point where it was too much. Like it kept happening. So I kind of just approached my sister and my mum, and I was like, look, I'm not feeling good right now. Like I need to get checked out because I'm not feeling great. So my whole thing was my whole experience from the start was more physical than actual me thinking I'm actually depressed, if you get what I'm saying.
Okay, so what point did you feel like you needed to seek help, or did you seek help, or was it a thing where you felt like you could handle it and you tried to kind of go off?
So to be fair, for a while, like I said, like for about 6-7 months, I was just fobbing off the pain, but at the same time, I didn't feel like I needed to seek mental health, mentally. I didn't think, do you know what I'm saying? It was more physical. So in my head, I was thinking, I'm going to go to doctors and they're going to say I've got X, Y, and Z, and then I could just fix it. Do you know what I'm saying? I wasn't thinking about like the long-term things that have actually happened to me. I'm thinking, oh, like maybe this is the reason why I'm feeling down. It was more physical for me, very physical. Do you know what I mean? From the start. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So was there a point where you did actually seek help?
Yeah. So I ended up seeking out help, going to like hospital. Like obviously they're telling me, oh, like I'm going to the hospital and they're telling me, oh, Martin, you're okay, like everything's fine. But I'm going home and I'm thinking, I don't feel fine though. I feel messed up right now. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking I feel messed up. And that just kept happening. And then eventually one of the doctors that I've seen probably like for the 5th, 6th time, he was like telling me, I think he told my mum first, saying, oh, your son's got depression, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of took me a while to come to terms with that because the doctor was telling me, oh, you're depressed. And I'm thinking, depressed? Like, me? Like, I've never been depressed in my whole life. Like, I'm the happy-go-lucky, like, do you know what I'm saying? When people heard that I was like, this was happening to me, they was like, no, like, not Martin. Like, I'm always just trying to have fun all the time. Do you know what I mean? So, and to be fair, at that point, if I'm being 100% honest, I kind of thought depression was a little bit of bullshit. Like, I just thought it was just people that just like, are just sad guys. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody told me they're depressed, I'd just be like, come on, man, like, fix up, man. What are you doing? Like, do you know what I'm saying? So it was quite a deep thing for me for somebody to tell me, look, you're depressed. Do you know what I mean? So that was another thing I had to get over as well. And then obviously all the stigma around talking about all that stuff anyway, as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So Sophie, if you could kind of speak from your perspective as you're his sister, like what was it like for the family being able to see that process? Were they aware? I mean, you're a psychologist in itself, so I mean, there are some things that you'd be able to pick up yourself, but I mean, was there a sense of awareness of what was going on, and what was the reactions to that?
So, yeah, whenever I think back and I think, yeah, I'm a psychologist, I should have picked up the signs a lot earlier than I did. And I think that was the biggest thing for me initially. And the thing that actually was, in hindsight, is the most difficult thing to kind of, you know, not feel guilt about, I think. You know, he was living with us at the time. He was living with me and my partner at the time. And I remember him saying he had this pain and he was in bed a lot and, you know, not going to uni. And I remember he had an exam that he had to retake, and he just wasn't, you know, from my perspective, he just wasn't doing the work. And I was saying, you know, and it was literally the last exam for him to pass his degree. And, you know, now I can see there was a lot more to that, you know, and I think, you know, reflecting on back on what he said about he felt like he wasn't good at anything, it's because he wasn't doing what he is here to do. He was going completely against that. And, you know, in a spiritual sense, even, that's, you know, that's bound to cause some sort of conflict. And I think he was just trying to be something and do something that he's not here to do for such a long period of time. But yeah, so from my perspective, I didn't pick up on anything for a really long time. So he said he had this pain. And that's the thing, I think, when, you know, I've worked in this field for so long, I've seen all the signs before, but when it's you or your family, defenses are high. They're so high, you know, it can't be me, can't be my family, like, and that's my subconscious. So I'm not even, my mind can't even go there. So he's got a pain, it must be a pain, you know, it must be, he needs to go and have an x-ray. Simple as that. So initially that was what happened, and he had the x-ray and they didn't find anything, and that didn't help him. So he was still in this place, he still had this pain. And that was when I said, look, just go back to Mum's. So we both live like in the London area, but we grew up in Bristol. So I said, go back to Bristol, go back to Mum's, and like get her, our mum's a nurse. So I said, get her to take you to the GP, and like, you know, that maybe they'll do some further investigations or whatever. So it wasn't long after he got back home, which again, I don't think is a coincidence, because a lot of the incidents that he explained that he'd been through, especially as, you know, younger, as a teenager, they all happened in Bristol, and they happened in our mum's house, a lot of them. So he's going back to the place of trauma and very quickly kind of de-escalated, or escalated, should I say, in terms of, you know, symptoms and things like that. So so it was anxiety and depression that he was diagnosed with. But of course, as anybody who, you know, knows mental health, this is a very, very strong statement to make, and it is a generalization, but if you are Black and you present to mental health services with psychotic type symptoms, so that is experiencing things that maybe other people around you are not experiencing, so hearing sounds, feeling things, seeing things that other people are not experiencing, you will very quickly get labeled with the schizophrenia label. And I saw that a couple of times on screens in his appointments. Nobody ever came out and said that to him as, you know, a diagnosis, and they never said it to us. So I don't know how ethical that is in terms of having it on a screen on someone's file and not explaining that to them. But yeah, that had come up.
So you're saying it was on his file, but they've never explained that to you?
Yeah, so I just saw it on a screen. So it could have been in notes, it could have been schizophrenia with a question mark, query, maybe. But it had been brought up in notes about him. And as far as I'm aware anyway, not in any appointments that I was in, that label hadn't been discussed. But, you know, a severe anxiety and depression that was kind of what they thought it was, because so with the pain, he was hearing sounds, especially at night. So he was hearing sounds in his lungs. I don't know if he remembers any of this, because obviously he was really, really unwell at that point.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, once he got back to Mum's, felt, you know, a lot more unwell, not sleeping, you know, hearing these things, just very, very on edge all the time. You know, he would spend his days pacing up and down. Mum said, like, I think you need to come home. You know, I don't know what to do, and I feel like, you know, it's getting worse, like we need your help, basically. So I went home, and yeah, just stayed there until, you know, I started to see him coming out the other side. And I guess what we did in that time is, you know, part of what we're going to discuss. But yeah, so from my perspective, that's kind of how it went.
I just wanted to kind of go into just delving into the signs a little bit, kind of going back into when Martin was starting to display some of these types of characteristics. And I think someone actually mentioned, I don't think men are taught to properly deal with their emotions, so they just fester it, and it's hard to figure out what the underlying issues may be. And I think that's very, very important and very poignant. So that purple dragon, because that's something that I often do see, and it's almost like it's even not only through men like having that perception of themselves of, you know, like what is emotions, like why do I need to be emotional kind of thing, or, you know, like not actually allowing themselves to have any type of emotional intelligence of what it is that they're feeling. But I feel like it's I feel like that is quite important in terms of like the fact that you're a psychologist and you wasn't able to pick that up. And I feel like that is a wider issue. And I feel like it's not even, I feel like this, the reason why I'm stuttering is because I'm trying to approach this from two different angles. Because as much as, you know, like you could be displaying certain things and you're like, okay, he's not well. But there's something I wanted to ask you is that the voices and things that you was hearing, were they negative? Were they positive? Like, was it, what was those types of voices?
Yeah, in terms of the voices, so if you might have to enlighten me on this, I can't remember what I was saying. I was hearing and stuff.
Yeah, so he didn't really say he was hearing voices, it was sounds. So
that was right.
So obviously he had this pain, which was primarily in his, was it your left side, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that's a coincidence in hindsight, because he was actually stabbed in his left side underneath his arm. This was only a few months prior to this happening. Wow. And so he had this pain in his left side, and he said it was in his lung. And he was convinced he had lung cancer, some type of lung cancer, and that we were kind of hiding it from him, and that we knew, but we were just like not talking about it in the hope that, you know, he would, you know, get better and just not have to worry, basically. So there was a lot of distrust and, you know, thinking that we all knew something that he didn't. But yeah, it was the sound. So I'm like very heightened. So when we went out, you could hear things a lot louder, couldn't you, than they actually were. And you could hear a sound in your lung at night. You said it was like a swishing sound.
Yeah, for me, like if we're talking about experiences, I feel like everything was just enhanced at the time. And I just didn't really feel human at the time. Like that's the one thing that I always remember when I was going through it. Because I wasn't eating, I wasn't laughing, I wasn't sleeping properly. Like I just felt inhuman at the time. Do you know what I mean? And trying to recoup and trying to get back from that, it's a very difficult thing. Do you know what I'm saying? And I feel like there's a lot of different things that you actually need to do and things that you need to have around you to actually take you away from that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, like this whole thing here, I always thought it was just stupid. I thought it was rubbish, but when I went through it, I really realized that when you hear about people like, you know, guys who have like committed suicide and stuff like that, like I said, I used to think like, why are they doing that? Like there's, you know, you've got their life to live. But truth of the matter is when you're going through something like that and you do feel inhuman and you're not eating and all these types of things are going on, not having people around you, family and friends, you would probably, man, you would do it. I see why people would do it. 100%.
Definitely, it's real life. At the end of the day, and yeah, as you're speaking, there's a lot of things that's kind of resonating for me at the same time. But just kind of going forward a little bit. So, how did you deal with this? Like, how did you go to a doctor? Did you ask for any assistance? Did they approach you? Because
so they like gave me someone that I can talk to. I can't remember the lady's name, but I was talking to her like once a week. And I've said to Soph before as well, like that was good, but personally, I feel like that was probably like maybe 5 to 10% of me actually getting back. Do you know what I mean? Which is still a substantial amount, but I felt like I had to do a lot of the stuff myself. Do you know what I mean? Because yeah, it's your mind at the end of the day. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you telling somebody your problems, that's cool, but for me anyway, like I'm talking about my experience. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, what was the question again? I've gone on a tangent.
No, it's okay. I said, what was the process like? Were you approached by doctors? Did you ever reach out to a doctor? Like, what was the process?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So obviously I had that woman that I used to speak to. To be fair, in terms of them giving me help, that was really the only thing that the mental health services actually gave me. Other than that, I was really just looking to my sister and my mum, and then my friends who. Yeah. I had counselling. Yeah, so I had counselling once a week for that period. Yeah.
Okay, and then everything else you relied on for your family. So it's that you relied on, like, with your family.
Exactly. To be fair, at the time, like, it sounds mad to say, but like, I was in such a situation that like I didn't really understand the help that I was really getting. Like now when I look back, I'm like, oh my God, like my sister was doing X, Y, and Z, and my mom was doing X, Y, and Z, and my friends were like worried about me and coming around. But at the time, I was just like this every day. I was just like in zombie mode. Do you know what I mean? So like part of me didn't really understand the full extent of what is actually going on. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, man, I had to just yeah, like now when I look back, it's crazy. Like we got through it as a collective. Do you know what I'm saying? Like my sister, my mum, and my friends as well. Do you know what I mean? Like having good people around you, like is a very important factor of life, I think. Do you know what I'm saying? Because as much as everyone wants to think like they're a big bad boss and X, Y, and Z, now, man, you want love, man. You need love around you, man. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's the 100% truth. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I feel like I got through it. Like I had people around me that I knew was trying to help, basically. Do you know what I mean?
What is the type of things that they did for you that made it feel so much more easier for you to go through that process?
One of the number one things, obviously, like I love food as well. So my mom was obviously cooking me food every day. Do you know what I mean? That was no problem. Obviously, with my sister being a psychologist, when I used to get out of hand or I'll be saying outrageous stuff or acting a little bit weird, like I think Sophie knew how to calm me down pretty quickly. Do you know what I'm saying? Which definitely helped as well. Do you know what I mean?
Did you share, sorry to cut you. Just I feel like that's important as well. Like because I feel like we don't often know how to approach people, and especially for those that are in crisis. So I think it's important to share, like, what was it that was about how her whole approach with her dealing with you that made it really helpful for you?
For me, like, to be fair, like obviously she's my sister. Like that's one of the main things, isn't it? She's my sister. So when she says something, I'm taking it with conviction. Like I'm not just listening. Like she says something, I'm gonna hold it and try and understand what she's trying to tell me, like properly, instead of like just somebody else. Do you know what I'm saying? So that was the main thing. That was one thing, sorry. And the second thing is she's trained in this stuff, innit? So if she's telling me something, like I would be a fool to not listen. Do you understand? So those were kind of like the two main factors why it helped, like from Soph's aspect. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. From your perspective, Sophie, what was that experience for you actually physically dealing with that? And if you can kind of like share, like, what is it that you was actually doing?
I did. Yeah. So it's there were quite a few things. So in terms of like what it was like as an experience, I honestly felt in that moment, because at that time in my career, I was feeling a bit disenchanted, to be honest. I was starting to feel like maybe this is not what I want to do for a job. And, you know, I had, you know, a few problems with the system and all of that kind of thing. There was a lot of things I just didn't agree with, basically. And I was starting to feel like, why am I doing this? That was the question I had like most days. And sitting with Mark, going through this, like most of the time, I just felt like, okay, everything that I've done has led up to this moment. This is why I've, you know, gone through the training that I have, why I've, you know, had the experiences I've had, because even though, you know, it doesn't make me an expert in any way, you know, in terms of what he's going through, I'm able to sit with him through this more than, you know, probably anyone else would have been able to. And if, you know, even if that's the only thing I ever did, you know, in my career was getting through that, then it was worth it. You know, it's worth all the years training and whatever else. In terms of like what that looked like, you know, what we did, it was anything. Like sometimes it was literally just breathing, getting him to breathe, because he would, you know, be hyperventilating. He'd be super anxious. I'd just sit in front of him, hold his hands and say, look, watch me, and breathe at the same time as me. And we'd literally just breathe at the same time together, and that was it. And sometimes he could only, you know, tolerate literally a minute of doing that, and then he'd have to like get up and, you know, start pacing again. But sometimes it was that. I slept in his room with him on the floor, making sure that he was sleeping, because that was a lot of, you know, we know that lack of sleep is, you know, can be killer. Like it can, sometimes that is most of the problem. You know, when people stop sleeping, the you know, spiral starts,
the immune system shuts down.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really, really hard to recover. So just making sure that he slept and stuff like that. And I think so from my perspective, I feel like the most important thing I did was not treat him like he's mad, basically, and actually listen to what he had to say and not be afraid to kind of go along with it. So I know he mentioned earlier about wanting to go to the doctors a lot for reassurance that he didn't have lung cancer, basically. And my mum found that very difficult because she's a nurse, and the hospital that we would go to is the hospital where she works as well. Right. So she was saying, you know, I can't, you know, keep going to A&E with him. I can't keep going and sitting in A&E, that, you know, they're going to think, you know, what's going on and all of this kind of stuff. So I just said, I'll go. You know, like, I really don't care. Like, I don't care what anyone has to say or whatever. If that's what's going to help him in that moment, it probably was a bit like, you know, enabling, but it was a way of passing the time, you know, of reducing his anxiety, even if it was just for a few hours. And, you know, we'd just go and sit, get a cup of tea, get a magazine, and literally sit in the waiting room until he was seen. And then he'd be seen. And then, you know, we'd come out and he'd probably be reassured for, you know, a couple of hours. And then it would be, oh, no, you know, there's something else they need to check. And I think like Google and all of that kind of stuff weren't very helpful during that time, because he obviously had constant access to the internet. And so he would just be always, you know, researching this new condition that he might have that links to these symptoms kind of thing. So we'd be told it wasn't that, and then he'd find a new thing that it was. So and then in terms of access to mental health, like help, this was a big deal for me, because obviously these are the services I've been working in most of my, you know, my adult life. And I always liked to think that, you know, the NHS is great and, you know, we offer a great service and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, from my perspective then, I felt so let down by them. I felt so let down. They weren't interested in helping unless he'd harmed himself or somebody else. When I called them, so I called an early intervention service. So early intervention is obviously, you know, as it says, it's supposed to be intervention at the earliest stage before somebody is kind of, you know, at the point where they might be admitted to hospital, for example. They told me that, you know, it wasn't severe enough. They were asking to speak to him on the phone. So this is somebody who is convinced he has a physical health problem. He's not going to want to talk to somebody concerned with mental health over the phone. He's just not going to want to. So you're going to have to take my word for it. And I was telling them, you know, I'm a psychologist. Like, I'm telling you, you know, he needs mental health input. And they were saying, no, well, we need to speak to him on the phone. It was just completely inaccessible. And then in the end, they said, okay, well, we can bring someone to the house, right? This was after a lot of pushing. And I said no, because I've seen it so many times. Black man becomes unwell, was as agitated as he is. Black people tend to be seen as more of a threat anyway. And I didn't want him being arrested, re-traumatized, sectioned, all of that kind of stuff, because I've seen it so many times. And I could see that's what, he's got a criminal record as well. Like, that's not, I could just see it. I could just see how it was all going to work out. And I just said, no one's coming to the house. But I said, I will try my best to get him to see a psychiatrist if you just give us an appointment. And that's what happened. And in the end, they gave us an appointment. We had to kind of coax him there. He didn't want to go. So me and my mum went with him and took him in, and we had to go in with him to the appointment as well. And he was given medication at that point, which he didn't really want to take. But again, it comes down to relationships at the end of the day, and family support, because he took that medication because we asked him to.
Yeah, that's true.
He trusted that we wouldn't, give him anything that was going to cause more harm, basically. And that's medication's a whole other subject, but at that time it was needed, I believe, but just a short while to, even just like medication to help him sleep, so that he could, start to do the work and, get back on track to recovery. And so that's what happened. He had really, really short-term medication compared to, a lot of people I've seen that end up in services. And he had the counselling, like he mentioned. And the rest was kind of, just like support, really. Just, talking, somewhere to stay that's safe, and food, like you said.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Was there a point where it got exhausting? Yeah. And even before I even allow you to answer that question, there's something that has really been like hitting bells for me as you've been kind of sharing your story, and it's I don't know if you've seen the BBC documentary that they did on psychosis a few months ago in the Mental Health Awareness month, and there was a guy, I can't remember his name, I think he's an actor, a black man, and he also went through a period of psychosis. But there was something that he was saying that is very much linked to what you were talking about with regards to your lung and your left side, and linking it to that trauma in itself. But there's something that he kept bringing up, and he said kept saying, I need to save the boy. I need to save the boy. And that's quite interesting, because in hindsight, he realized that he was actually talking to himself. It's almost like he was outside of himself, speaking to himself, trying to remember that, or his inner child, and reclaim back his inner child kind of experiences of the trauma that he experienced. But it's just quite interesting how a lot of these types of crises happen when there's a lot of unresolved trauma. But one thing that kind of frustrates me with regards to the mental health system is that not often gets picked up, the trauma aspect of the experience, and how to kind of practically or holistically be able to go through that process. Because, there's a lot that becomes uncovered in these types of experiences. I can imagine the type of trauma that you was left with just after being stabbed, as you said. That's a lot of trauma. That's not something that you're just going to be able to move off with. So I can understand how the depths of how these types of things can affect you.
The thing is as well, like when it comes to terms of things like that, like things of that nature kind of just become a norm as well. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously I probably did feel trauma from that, but I have to say, like, there's guys around me and a very close friend who's been harmed way more than I was. Do you know what I'm saying? And sometimes I think, like, cool, I had these things happen, but there's also a lot more going on as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's obviously people that haven't dealt with their trauma as well. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a very deep thing, man. It's a very, very deep thing, especially for young black men. Like very, do you know what I mean? You're supposed to just shrug things like that off. Do you know what I mean? Like it's normal, and things like that ain't normal. Do you know what I mean? So it's a mad situation, mad situations.
That's definitely another conversation we definitely need to have, because I think it's, especially after someone messaged earlier with regards to just how men deal with their mental health in itself. I think that in itself is very important, because as women, we kind of wear our emotions on our sleeve, or some of us, a lot of us anyway. we wear our emotions on our sleeves, and so it's more acceptable for us to be able to be in that type of realm.
That's why I was going to touch on what you just said, because you was talking about that guy talking about like he had physical pain, X, Y, and Z, and the doctor said like when I was like kind of on the mend and I was getting a little bit better, the doctors said to me like, you know, men sometimes feel depression in a physical way before anything else, and that's because we link pain with physical harm instead of actually mental harm.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
It's more socially acceptable. That's the thing. I think it's more socially acceptable for a man to say, I've got a physical pain somewhere, than it is to say, actually, you know, mentally I don't feel very well. Spiritually, I don't feel very well. So, I think it's that you do see that a lot in men. It will manifest in something that they feel. It's very real to them. They very much feel that physical pain. But that's kind of how it comes out. That's
how it manifests, like, do you know what I mean? Because I can't stress enough, like, before the whole thing, like you asked me, your first question on this thing was, how did it manifest? And I just remember the pain. Like, I don't remember anything else. I just remember the pain that I had inside me. Like, that's the first thing. Do you know what I'm saying? That was literally the first thing that happened to me before, like, everything unraveled. Do you know what I mean? So it's crazy. Like, the brain, it's a very crazy thing. Do you know what I'm saying? You got all these guys pumping iron, like even me. Do you know what I'm saying? But you have to pump this. Do you know what I'm saying? You have to pump. Obviously, being fitness helps, but you have to make sure your mind is working out as well. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%. Thing is really important, because I actually have a condition called fibromyalgia, which is chronic pain syndrome, or chronic fatigue syndrome, and this type of condition is birthed, and this is a condition that is actually on the rise, and especially more so in younger people, which is quite surprising. It was never a thing, but it's unresolved trauma that gets trapped within the body. And for me, coming from a holistic perspective, where I understand energy awareness and things like that, and how trapped energy, which is produced in emotions, that if that emotion is not able to be transferred or channeled in another direction, it's going to get trapped in a specific area, and that can create illnesses. It can create emotional illnesses. It can create spiritual illnesses. Literally, all your layers can be affected by 100. You not effectively being able to deal with your emotions. And I think it's important to get that information out, because literally it's the same thing with me. By me not taking the initiative to go for a process of healing for many years, I'm now dealing with a condition where I'm having to be dealing with that pain physically on a regular basis. But there's something about pain. It's always pain is a signifier that something is wrong. So whenever you're actually sick, the pain that you're feeling is just, okay, this is in your leg. Okay, there's something in your leg that needs to be discovered. But sometimes it's not always the physical leg. Like, what can that leg mean in multiple different ways? Like, are you stable? Like, do you have a sense of stability? Do you feel a sense of balance? Like, there's so many different ways that can be transmuted, which is why you was picking up the whole kind of lung pain. But it was actually, maybe you felt constricted, like you couldn't breathe, like you felt claustrophobic, you know? It transfers in that type of way in itself. So there's always links and things to understand, like, so much deeper with that in itself. But I'm going to post back the question that I was going to post to you earlier. Like, did it ever get exhausting dealing with that? And this is me asking this question and it's interesting having this conversation, because my experience, I was also sectioned by the mental health hospital, but I actually went through a very traumatic experience, and I was actually, like, my human rights, everything was stripped away from me. I became not even a human being. But the why this conversation is so interesting to me is because of just like, especially you, Sophie, just like, obviously you know that you've got knowledge of mental health in itself, but I don't think a lot of our families are equipped to be able to give that level of support to each other, and that's something that I didn't receive. And where you were talking about you went to the psychiatrist and all that kind of stuff, and he was like, okay, like, take my word for it. For me, my situation was actually exacerbated, and my family used that as a type of fuel to allow that to happen. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like it's a very interesting conversation to have, and bringing into the legislations of what's in the Mental Health Act, of like, with regards to someone who's been sectioned, your family, whether you're estranged, whether they're abusive or whatever, they still have care or the say over what happens to you. And I think it's just important to have this conversation from both angles, because I feel like if we do have these types of conversations more, we can try and create more avenues where we can, you know, like, take a more humanistic approach to this thing. But the reason why I'm asking this question of did you ever feel exhausted is because especially as Black people, we're easily triggered, and we can easily see like these challenging kind of displays of behavior and just be like, not today. I ain't trying to, like, you easily trigger, and you just like, you end up fueling the situation and you end up throwing it back on that person. And then you just almost detach from the whole situation in itself. So yeah, I'd just like you to kind of express, like, what was that like personally for you?
Is it me or Mark?
Yeah, sorry, you,
yeah,
Sophie.
Sorry. So yeah, it was definitely tiring for sure. But I think, you know, all of the things that you've described, obviously I've seen that happen so many times in the system. And I've seen, you know, people come into hospital and you know, it seems like they're alone. You know, they don't get visitors necessarily, or if they do, the visitors cause more upset than anything else. And, you know, I know we spoke before about, you know, how when somebody is diagnosed with a mental illness, it's almost like they're not seen as human anymore. Like, they're not seen as, you know, deserving of rights. They're not seen as deserving of being listened to. And so I think having an advocate is very, very, very important in those situations. And, you know, like you say, sometimes that might automatically fall to family members who are not in a place to be that person, to be that advocate for, you know, the person that's in, you know, in the system. So yeah, I feel like it was difficult for me to navigate as somebody that's worked in that system for such a long time, and, you know, for, you know, being his sister and having his best interests at heart. Like, for somebody who maybe, you know, has an issue with the family member, or, you know, has their own thing going on, you know, between them and the family member, and doesn't have the, you know, that background knowledge of the system and the training and all of that kind of stuff, I just can't even imagine how much of a minefield that would be to try and kind of get through it. And then, you know, you have to address like the stigma side. Do you know what I mean? I think that's probably what, you know, I saw, especially with my mum. So my mum, you know, she wouldn't mind me saying, like, she's a brilliant nurse, you know, general nurse, brilliant with anything, you know, physical that she can see. But when it comes to, you know, mental health, she, you know, admitted, you know, she had said, you know, I just cannot deal with this. I don't know how to. She was very, very anxious herself. And I think part of that as well is that we have a grandma who has had mental health struggles. So, and it's kind of like once that became her label, if you like, she's not ever been the same. Right. That's kind of like the story in our fact, that's the narrative in our family, you know, like she's not really her kind of thing. And I think so mum was obviously worried about that. She thought like now this had happened to him, he was never going to be, you know, her son as she knew him again. And so that was always playing on her mind. So you're bound to be, you know, anxious and, you know, want to detach yourself in some way because you just can't go there. So deep. So yeah, I think, yeah, like it was just about, I had to just remind myself that I'm the best person in the world, really. Like I make myself sound like I think I was really important, but I just had to keep reminding myself that I'm the best person to help him right now. And, you know, to bridge that gap between him and, you know, services, to kind of keep away the part of services that I didn't think was going to be helpful for him. And that was what kept me going, because I knew what would happen if I didn't do that. And he would have had, you know, a very, very traumatic experience. I knew, I could see, like I said, I could see it exactly how it was going to go. He was going to be arrested. He was going to be sectioned. He was going to, you know, go through probably a very similar experience to what you went through, be injected and all of those kind of things. And I just was not about to let that happen. Simple as that. I could have been as tired. It's not happening.
I think it's a blessing that didn't happen, because I even know personally myself of other Black men that this has happened to. And
same.
You know, even when I was on the BBC and they did initially the documentary on there was another guy who was on there who he was expressing that how the police just were so brutal with him. And they were also that brutal with me, and I'm a woman, so they really just don't care who is it that they're dealing with.
Yeah,
so
100%.
I think that's of a blessing that is in this, that didn't allow you to go through that process, but to still allow you to harness the truth of your experience and understand the lessons and
that's another thing as well. Like, I was talking to my friend yesterday about this whole thing. And I was saying I'm kind of apprehensive because I've never done anything like this kind of thing. He was kind of like, at the end of the day, like, there's people that are going through it, or they might go through it, and it's good to give the feedback, because I came out the other side. Do you know what I mean? And there's certain people that this happens to, and truth be told, they do actually end up killing themselves or doing some other madness. Do you know what I mean? And you have to find the roots and the root reasons and how you can actually get back to normal. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And it may not even be the normal that you had before, but it may just be a completely different reality to where you thought you could be. And I want you to kind of speak about where you are now, because I remember you saying earlier you didn't feel like you was, almost like you felt like you had no purpose. That's what I was hearing you say.
Basically that.
Yeah, so I mean, like, where are you at now, and how did you get to the process of where you are at now?
Yeah, so basically throughout that whole thing, like, obviously when I started actually feeling a little bit better, and my mind was a little bit clearer and a little bit more straight, I think this situation here was actually quite vital. Like, when my mind was straight again, and I kind of came to terms with me knowing that I'm actually depressed, I started thinking, like, cool, I need to make myself happy again. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that was my main thing. And I didn't really care what it was, but I used to think every day, what do you find that makes you happy, Mark? Like, how can you make yourself happy again? Do you know what I mean? So I kind of just went back to basics. Do you know what I mean? And like, making music makes me happy. Going to the gym makes me happy. And I literally just started doing everything I could to try and like make myself happy again. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that's another thing a lot of people overlook. Do you know what I mean? And especially in this day and age with social media and X, Y, and Z, like, you go on social media and you see somebody doing something good and you think bad about yourself, or you think, oh, like, how come I'm not doing what they're doing or whatever? Do you know what I mean? But like, the truth of the matter is, it don't matter if you've got friends, a good family, anything. Like, you actually have to make yourself happy. Do you know what I'm saying? Because no one's going to do that for you. Like, no matter if somebody's holding your hand saying, oh, everything's going to be cool and fine, that's not really going to work. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a certain percentage that might help, but you have to actually make yourself happy. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Even if you've got a partner, a girlfriend, a husband, whatever, it don't even matter. Like, you have to literally make yourself happy. And I think that, for me, is probably one of the most valid things that I've learned throughout that whole experience. Do you know what I mean? So now I won't say I don't look to people for happiness, but like, I create my own way.
You can't have that expectation on someone else to make you happy.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
That's a false expectation, and I don't think it's a
Exactly.
fair expectation, because you end up putting that weight onto someone else that you'll not actually carry your own burden. You know,
exactly.
so
everyone's got their own problems. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone's got their own problems, but yeah, like, it's but yeah, back to obviously me coming out of that. So yeah, I kind of just went back to basics. So I started writing music again. I started going to the gym with my friend again. Like, he used to bring me, his dad teaches boxing. So I started going there, started getting back into my fitness again. Just literally, like, just started going back to basics. Do you know what I mean? And then from there, that was probably maybe 9 months to 10 months now. And then I started thinking, like, okay, like, I started thinking about the real things again. Like, okay, what am I going to do to make money now? Do you know what I mean? Because I was at what, 23, 24 at the time, I think. So I started thinking, cool, like, I need to make some money now. I need to get back into the groove with things. What am I going to do? But I was thinking in my head, I can only do what makes me happy. Do you know what I mean? I can only do what makes me happy. So I started doing my art, doing my art, posting it online, just doing small things here and there. And it just carried on rolling. And obviously I've always been a techie guy anyway, like techie and into like drawing and stuff like that. And then since then I've just kept the ball rolling and like, you know, blessings just been coming my way. Do you know what I mean? That's the truth.
Yeah. So what is it that you actually do now? That did you find your purpose? Feel like you're on your way to finding it? Yeah,
I'm definitely, I don't want to say that I found it, but like, I'm definitely on the way. Like, you know, I feel like I got a lot of things to offer, but I just know that I just know that I'm a creative person. Do you know what I mean? And if I'm not creating something, then I'm just not really that happy. That's the honest truth. Like, I have to be creating something for me to be cool. Do you know what I'm saying? As mad as it sounds, like, do you know what I mean? So whether it's drawing, whether it's music, and that's what helps me. Do you know what I mean? And luckily, like, I've been able to make money off of it. Do you know what I mean? But it's, you know, I always say to people now, when they say to me, oh, like, Mark, you're doing well, and I say, bro, like, everyone, you just got to follow what you like. Follow your passion, man. Follow what, you know, follow what makes you smile. Do you know what I mean? Don't worry about the money. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Don't worry about the money, because at the end of the day, yeah, man, money can do things, but it's not deep down, it's not really going to bring you like real happiness, not real happiness. Do you know what I'm saying?
Definitely. And I took a look at your website and it's absolutely dope. Like, it's like
yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
It looks like an industry kind of type website. Do you know what I mean? Like somewhere that I would go to and I'd be like, yeah, this is like mainstream.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
can I just say he's being super like modest right now about what he does. Like, you think it's like industry standard website. He's got a very, very successful web design business and like some huge clients, and like he's jam-packed with work, like is very, very successful in what he does. And I think, yeah, I'm just gonna say it because he's not saying it. Out there. gonna just put it out there. That's because funny. Honestly, like it is for me, it's amazing to see him, you know, thriving in doing what he loves the way he does. And you know, it is, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like, when you find your passion and when you find what, you know, I don't believe we're all here for just one thing. So, you know, one of your many purposes, if you like, then, you know, it shows. and you do end up getting paid for it whether you like it or not, because
it's true.
You're the best at what you do. So
yeah, it's true, man. It's definitely true. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
I'll definitely say to you, like, celebrate yourself, because this is not an easy journey. Like, this is like the breakdown to breakthrough. Not many people can transition to that next phase of the journey.
Yeah,
Some
that's
people
that
breakdown.
Yeah, like that's another one of things as well. It's like your close people, like everyone knows the people that were there at the time, they know what you went through. Do you know what I'm saying? So a lot of my friends, like, they message me sometimes like, Mark, man, like, I can't believe you went through that and you came out the other end and X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I look back on it and I'm happy, man. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they got to see that, and also they were there with me seeing the whole thing. Do you know what I'm saying? So like those friends to me now, they're dear to me. Do you know what I'm saying? Because friends are hard to keep these days anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a good thing, man. It's a good thing. But like I said yesterday as well, I was talking to one of them, and I was saying to him, I'm kind of apprehensive about doing this, and he literally like asked me questions like, why are you apprehensive? And he literally just broke down every reason why I should do it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I was like, you know what? Like, cool, man. I'll do it then, innit? Like, you know what I mean? I'll do it.
I think someone asked, did you have hypochondria?
What's that?
Basically where you almost like over exaggerative of everything kind of thing.
I don't know. Nah, I don't think I did have that, to be fair. I don't think I had that, actually.
I think how he was presenting, how he was presenting to doctors, that could have been like a possible diagnosis that they could have given if it wasn't for the other stuff. So the other, symptoms, like, he was obviously very, very, super anxious, and had symptoms in line with depression and that kind of thing. So I think on its own, like the presenting to the hospital with this physical thing, on its own, that could be taken as hypochondria, but I think it was a lot more than that, or it was more symptomatic of everything else that was going on, basically.
Definitely. I'm just going to read out some of the comments of some of the people that commented. So the Pepsita, she said, you are not alone. I can relate. Just relax. Just try some alternative herbal medicines. Refrain from stress. Love yourself. Family love is paramount in these times. And I totally agree. And she also said, good for you that you had a sister who is in the profession and was able to help and guide you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I always think like that. That's super, super lucky. Do you know what I'm saying? Like proper praise and lucky for that, because like I said, I actually know people. I got one of my friends, and his brother kind of went through similar thing that I didn't even know about until maybe 6 months ago. And then like me and my friends were just chilling, and we were saying like, oh, what happened to your brother, kind of thing. And then he told us the whole story, and we was like, whoa, like. And I was saying to my friend, like my friend was looking at me like, wow, like you guys went through the same thing, but he actually ended up getting sectioned and X, Y, and Z. And so, yeah, similar stories, but two different outcomes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Two different outcomes.
Definitely. And Brooke says, that is beautiful. So happy and inspired by his story. And Brittany Fraser said, Martin, please use your voice to help the younger and current generation. And I totally stand behind
that. Yeah. I know.
Especially with the type of generation that is coming up now. Very misguided. And I'm sure you can kind of, with what you expressed earlier, it's almost like you can relate to those types of experiences within itself. But I think one of the things that is lacked within this generation is emotional intelligence. So it's just giving your story, giving that message of like actually really seek to understand what these things are, because like it can actually fall back on you if you don't actually take control of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
I'm just going to ask the last question, and you can both chime in with this. And what would you say, firstly, those that may be dealing with, because I know I've had a few people that have messaged me personally and said that their family members are actually going through crisis right now. So this live is definitely needed for them. But what would you say to those family members that are dealing with the crisis? Martin, what would you say to those who are going through crisis? And yeah, what would you say is the best way to kind of deal with it, or just get through, or assist, or whatever you want to share?
Do you want to go first, Soph?
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah, I can go first if you like. Sorry, I'm just feeding my daughter at the same time.
Okay.
I could hear a scream in the place. I was like,
do you want me to talk then, Soph?
No, sorry, I can do it. Yeah. So as a family member, I guess I can only really speak from that perspective at the moment. So I would say, try. I know it's really, really hard, especially if you have all of these ideas about what mental health, what mental illness means, or, all of that kind of stuff, and the stigma that we have in society. But try your best to, kind of just be with that person, just spend time with that person, be with them, without trying to do anything, or, get them to do anything, or just kind of just be with them, and let them know that they're not on their own, and that they do have love around them. And I know sometimes that can be very difficult, because they might be presenting in a way that's very hard to see or hard to hear, or all of that kind of stuff. But we kind of just have to put our own things aside for the moment, and just be with them. I would say, just think about, in terms of like accessing services, obviously, there can be some very helpful services out there. I'm not saying that all services are not helpful and are traumatizing and all of that kind of thing, but just be mindful that, these services are provided by humans as well. They're only human. They've all got their own biases, gaps in training, all of this kind of stuff. And, as somebody who is currently well, if you're the family member, just try and help that person to navigate the services in a way that is going to be helpful, and the least traumatizing as possible, I guess, because that's that you do see people go into services and then they're for months and months and months, sometimes years. You get like revolving door syndrome, where they're literally back in all the time, because sometimes of what they suffered from whilst in services. So it's kind of about trying to break that cycle. And lastly, I would say that if somebody in your family presents with a mental health problem, or whatever you want to call it, it's not just their thing. So I know that can be a really like crazy concept to like get your head around, but just because it's them presenting with the problem doesn't mean it's only their problem. It's usually, something that has come and manifested from things that have happened within your family. And, we all play a part in that, whether we like it or not, especially as parents, especially as, growing up with them, siblings and that kind of stuff. But we've all played a part in them now presenting with this thing. So we all have a responsibility, therefore, to deal with it together. There are things like family therapy and things like that, which I've found to be very, very powerful in my work, because it doesn't just put the problem in the person. It becomes everybody in that family. And a family doesn't have to necessarily mean like nuclear family. It can be the family you've created for yourself. It might be you and your friends. It might be whoever it is that has got your back, basically. You just kind of deal with it together, and I guarantee you that kind of support you provide and that for them will have so much more of a better outcome than if they're just kind of leaving them to it and hoping you see them again once they're on the other side. So I think that's what I'd say.
Definitely. Anything to add to that, Martin?
Like from a personal aspect, I feel like if somebody's going through it, obviously so spoke about from helping the person. I'll talk about the actual person themselves. If they're actually going through it, I'll just say, like I said before, like just get back to the basics, and understand that you need to make yourself happy. Like, do you know what I'm saying? I feel like that's like, yeah, definitely top three things, you know what I mean? Make sure you're eating well, make sure you're exercising. But yeah, I think mainly just taking the time out and doing the things that make you happy. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's kind of what got me back to me being myself again. So
I think what you mentioned about nutrition is really important.
Yeah.
Being aware of it and acting accordingly, definitely. Nutrition, it's the simple things that we end up missing out. Like, you know, if someone's going through crisis, they're clearly not eating properly, like, or they may have just randomly switched their diet. I was only eating fruits and I didn't want anything else but fruits, you know. So it's like, you know, just being aware of that and just learning how to work with it at the end of the day. But I want to thank you guys again for joining me on this platform to have this conversation. It's a very, very much needed conversation. If anyone has any questions that you'd like to comment below or whatever, hopefully before the time I get off this stream, we can answer them really quickly, or just leave it in the comments and then we can respond back accordingly. I'm sure you guys will catch back the live as well and be able to see different comments and stuff. But with regards to, especially with mental health and being able to balance your mental health, sometimes it's almost like, you know, that you need to have elements, you know, that there's aspects of yourself that you need to heal, you need to deal with, and sometimes you don't really know where to start, and that can often be like some of the major barriers. But I am actually launching a intuitive chakra healing course next month. This is actually a course at the same time. It'll be running for 7 weeks, where we'll be dealing with each energetic chakra or energetic center of ourselves for each one chakra a week, basically. So oftentimes when we find mental imbalances, it means, and it just like as you was talking about, you was feeling certain things within your heart, in your lungs, and these are trapped energies, but these are trapped in our energetic centers. So when we begin to understand what energy is being trapped where, and we begin to tune into that energy and understand why it's there, we learn how to be able to connect with our own sense of emotional intelligence, but also practically learn how to shift that energy. Because unless that energy is shifted, we're going to continue to attract situations that keep these centers blocked. you know, so we have to take the decision to actually deal with it. So this is a challenge that I'm running from next month. I've made sure I've kept the cost of this extra low just to make sure that everyone has access to this information, so that you can learn to heal yourself. So definitely check out my website, www.soul-reconnection.com. That's www.soul-reconnection.com. And if you can let us know where we can find you, you said that you do creative media and websites and stuff. So let us know where we can find you.
Definitely. Definitely. If you're looking for any websites, you want an app built, you want some graphics, you want a good logo, anything digital. I call myself the digital plug, basically. Like anything digital, contact me. Go to apex-designs.uk, or you can find me on Instagram, apexmart. But yeah, man, or go on my Facebook, all the links are there. Or yeah, man, just ask a friend, man. Apex Designs, go on Google, put in Apex Designs. I'm top of the list, so it'll come up.
Ranking on that SEO.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I have to.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely find you. And what is it that you're actually doing as well?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm currently, I'm currently coaching mums in business. Like I said earlier, primarily mums from Black and ethnic minorities, just because I feel like it's, you know, completely you know, there's a whole other set of issues, you know, in society wise, culture wise, and all of that kind of thing that can affect, you know, how we show up in the world and in our businesses. And you can find me on LinkedIn, that's Sophie Sterling, or you can find me on Facebook. So my Facebook page is Sophie Sterling Coaching. That's probably the easiest.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, and
for having us.
I appreciate you for inviting me to do this as well, man. A lot.
No, thank you for coming. Like, I really appreciate it. Like I said, this is almost like a movement I want to create, a movement of authenticity, of expression, of realness, of healing, of all of these different things. This is what I'm trying to create, and this is not just like me at the head. I'm trying to almost like bring a community of like-minded people together and open my platform to these people to like unravel the gems be revealed from these types of conversations, because it's not had very often. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like definitely that's my place. So yeah, guys, if you want to continue the conversation, you can do on the comments below. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video if you found this video valuable. If there was any type of valuable information that was in this, if you was inspired or anything, please share, please like, and please subscribe to the channel. As I said, there's more content where that is. So we will be live on Monday, I believe, with Kaisha. I just saw her pop in the chat. I can't remember what this live will be, so I'll let you guys know in the promotions. I should have got that prepared before. That shows where my mind's at. Nonetheless, so we'll catch you guys later. All right,
Thanks
cool.
for having us.
Cool, man. Peace out.
Bye.
I'm just gonna stop this stream.